In 2020, he walked across America for peace. In 2023, he walked across Oahu for purpose. But this time, he walked across Costa Rica for her. 14 days, endless rain, blisters, steep climbs, falls, and at the end of it all, a proposal like no other. You've heard of walking down the aisle, but have you heard of walking across a country to get there? Tune in to the Walk for Love full episode now. This is episode 69, The Walk for Love. James walked across a country for her. Welcome to Healing with Haley. I'm your coach, Haley Kirk. On this podcast, we dive into ways to heal, embrace, and truly love our lives. Here's my belief. So much of our suffering comes from what we believe. I'm here to help you understand your mind and question those thoughts to start your healing journey. Ready to get started? Let's go. Welcome, podcasters. I have James Thompson here again for another podcast episode. What is up, James?
What's up, Haley?
He is in Costa Rica. How was it? So he just recently did a whole walk around Costa Rica, and he told me like snippets, but it was like snakes and snails and scary things all over the place. But I want you to tell us like what was well, you've told me before, but tell our listeners what the purpose of this walk was for.
Sure. So about 8 months ago, I started to date this amazing woman. Her name is Vanessa, and she is from here in Costa Rica. So over the last 8 months, I've been coming down here to visit. And, as we've developed our relationship and I knew that I wanted to get married and we both talked about this, I thought, what a better way to propose than to walk across her country and then propose at the very end. And I don't think I've heard of anyone who has done something like that.
The biggest romantic gesture ever.
Yeah. And, if any of your listeners have heard my story from before, I walked across the United States in 2020. I walked across the island of Oahu in 2023. And this time, this was a walk for Vanessa. So
For love.
it was for love. It was definitely something that you have to be committed to because even though it was only 14 days, it was extremely challenging. And we can get into that if you want.
Yeah. Dive deep in. Go.
Yeah. So I've been planning this walk for the last 4 or 5 months. And this is part of the other Caminos, like the Camino de Santiago, which is in Spain. And so it's a 14-day walk. It's supposed to be 16, but I wanted to do it in 14. So there are 16 stages, and it starts off in the Caribbean in Limon, Perismina, and then it goes to the Pacific in Capos. And the first day you take a boat to the Pacific, I'm sorry, to the Caribbean, to Limon. You have to take this boat through this river, and I've seen a couple of videos where there are jaguars swimming through the river and gators, and there's just all this wildlife out there, toucans and monkeys and snakes, and then you get out there to the shore, and then you walk to the beach, and that's where it begins. And so Vanessa and I actually did that first stage 2 weeks prior to my walk. So we did that with a group and it was really fun. And
You
then
started your walk with a group of people?
yeah, so we did that first stage. It's like 20 kilometers or like 14 miles or something like that. And so we did that as a group, but I wanted to do that again myself because I wanted to do it from coast to coast on my own. So yeah, that first day, I kind of was familiar with it because we'd done it previously, and and it's beautiful. You see all kinds of wildlife, and it's really hot. And then the second day, I'll just tell you, that's where things start to get interesting. That's when you're starting to climb these really intense mountains. And I'm carrying a backpack with me. It feels like I'm carrying 50 pounds, but it's, because you're carrying your clothes and your water and your food.
Mm-hmm.
And, you stay with people along the way. So we had lined up, hotels or um, there are people in the community. The other part of this walk was to support the local community and to support the entrepreneurs
Oh.
who cook food, who have these hotels. And it's really beautiful because you get to meet these people. And I speak very little Spanish, but I did have,
I gave him crap for that earlier. I was like, you gotta learn español.
yes. And I, when I did have service, I would use Google Translate and I would try to communicate with them as much as possible to hear their story. And I stayed with a variety of people. In fact, the second night I stayed with a lady. She's from Sweden, but she's married to a Costa Rican, and they have horses, and they actually take in rescue horses. And she has this kind of hotel Airbnb place. And so anyway, the third day I want to talk about because I think it was one of the most interesting. You walk through this indigenous land. Okay, the Quebeca tribe, I believe that's how you say it. And they live in pretty remote Costa Rica. And so you have to have a guide that takes you through the rainforest. And that's where you come across these snakes and different, animals. And you stay in like this rural part of the country with these people, these indigenous people. And they're just so humble. It wasn't until recent that they've got electricity and plumbing,
Oh my
but
God.
really eye-opening, right? Because I have never lived or even seen, in person communities like that, right? I've only seen it on TV. And so when you're there, you're like, wow, this is amazing. And these people are so kind. There was a time where I was walking and the guide, his name is I'm spacing his name. Um I can't think of his name anyway. So I'm
El
walking.
Chapo.
No, oh, it's slipping my mind. Anyway, I was walking and he told me I was just about to walk on a snake
Ah!
and stopped me, and that was terrifying. Um, Cooper, that's his name, Cupertino.
Was it a poisonous snake?
So they're venomous. Yeah. So there are some that are venomous. I came across a coral snake and that one, I don't know if it was or not, but still terrifying, right? Um, so you're going in and out of these rainforests and these different climates. They have all these different microclimates. So it can be really hot and humid in one part of the country and then like really cooler in the other part. There were times where I it
Okay,
had
coral snakes are highly venomous,
did you
possessing one of the most potent venomous of North American snakes. Good God.
yeah. And sometimes you don't see them. Like you're going to sit down and boom, all of a sudden there's like one right next to you.
No. That's so scary.
That was always my fear was what if I sit on a snake and I don't even realize it? And they have these snakes too in the jungle that are camouflaged with sticks. And so you think that, and they're also extremely venomous. And
Yeah.
so, and they have all these poisonous plants too, which I fell down this mountain, embarrassingly enough. And the only thing that saved me was this tree that stopped my fall. Because I had this backpack and my legs just gave out. I was not
Oh,
used to walking so much. And, that I snapped one of my walking sticks.
oh my God.
But yeah, there were times where I was walking and it was dark. It gets dark earlier here, so around 6 p.m.
Ugh.
And I lost service. So what do you do when you have another 3 miles left to go? You can't access your phone because it's pouring rain and you can't open your phone. It's dark. You have no idea where you are. You don't speak the language, and you have to get to your hotel, the place where you're staying. What do? You can either stay there and just be a little baby and just pray that something's gonna work out, or you can just keep walking and pray that you're going the right direction. And that's what I'd had to do a couple of times.
Oh my God.
In the moment, it was terrifying because I thought, what if I'm going in the complete wrong direction and I end up on the opposite side of the town, right? Fortunately, there would be people that would drive by sometimes, and I could say, hey, I'm trying to get to this place. And they tell me, okay, you got to go down this road. And so the whole experience was very humbling in some ways because it was very different than walking across the country, the United States. Um, and then at the same time, it was one of the most beautiful experiences being on top of these mountains and being able to see out. And towards the end, I was able to actually see the Pacific coast from where I was. And that was just incredible.
So what moment during your walk were you the most certain you're like, yes, Vanessa is my forever person?
That's a good question. It was throughout the entire walk. I mean, when things got really hard, which was pretty much every day, I'm like, why am I doing this? Seems silly. In fact, I had a lot of people knew that I've walked across the country and they thought, this is crazy. You can't do that. In fact, her own family thought this was dumb, that it's very dangerous for many reasons because the roads sometimes are very sketchy, um, because of the terrain, because of the animals, because of all these different things. And, I realized that you're going to get naysayers, and I had to push past that. And she was the reason I did this. And I just had this vision in my mind every day of what I wanted the very end to look like. And that kept me going.
What was that vision?
That was on the last day. She was going to meet me in Capos. And, I had the ring. Actually, I didn't bring the ring with me during the walk because I didn't want it to be stolen or something to happen to it. So I had it with her. She didn't know it, but it was in my backpack, and she brought my backpack. But the interesting thing is that day that she was supposed to meet up with me, her car was having issues. And so we thought, oh no, maybe she can't come out, and maybe I'm going to have to take the bus back to where she lives. And fortunately, she was able to get a rental and she made it to me. And so I had the ring with me and walked with it for the last day. And then I made it to Capos. And when I made it to Capos, we went to this hotel and I got changed and cleaned up. And we were having the most difficult time trying to find a place to eat. But in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to propose to her at the beach, but it got dark earlier. So I ended up just proposing to her at the restaurant. So not exactly what I was hoping for, but still did it. It was still really romantic. And I know she really appreciated it. She was totally caught off guard because she thought this was a personal goal, which it was to some degree, but she supported me throughout this entire walk. She helped me line up all of the places where I stayed, and it would have been very difficult to do this without her. So that was my vision, and it ended up happening, right? Because I had this vision in my mind for 5, 6 months.
Wow, that's amazing that you were able to push back on Vanessa's family, because I would feel, or at least, being previously married, like I want to make a really good first impression, right? And so you kind of just want to be agreeable at that point. But you're just so that just says a lot about your character. It's like I mean, accept me as I am. I don't need you to approve of my decisions.
Yeah, and I wanted to do something that showed my dedication for Vanessa, that I was willing to immerse myself in her culture and to do something really hard, which is a great metaphor for the relationships in our life, because now I look back on those times where it was really difficult and realize I had the ability to push through it, you know. And so, and I know you have this experience of being in relationships where things are really hard, and you learn to problem solve, right? And so that was a big part of this walk, was problem solving and finding a solution and not giving up, and not, and like we were talking about, not really caring what other people think.
That's a superpower. That's a huge superpower. I feel like genetically we're designed to be approved of for survival, right? We're humans, we're very social survival creatures. So you're going against your genetic code, which is really badass. Some badassery right there.
Yeah.
Um, so you were talking about giving up. Was there a moment, a very specific moment? Was it the moment you fell down the mountain? Or like, was there a moment where you were like, oh, I just want to give up, and what pushed you through? Sounds like from your previous answer, it was, the vision, the end goal, but kind of walk us through that moment where you're like,
Mhm.
oh, man, let me just stop this walk.
Yeah, there was one day, I can't remember which day it was because there were a few of these where it was pouring rain. And when it rains in Costa Rica, it rains like crazy. It just comes down on you. And I'm thinking, this is so uncomfortable. I could be inside, comfortable, dry, and here I am doing this, and I have no idea how long this is going to last. And keep in mind, again, I'm walking through really intense terrain, going up and down mountains and just soaking wet. This is so uncomfortable. And, the thing that came to me was, sure, a lot of my friends and family know I'm doing this, but there is one person that is depending on me to finish, and it was Vanessa. And so, because Vanessa believed in me, despite her also believing that it was a little crazy to do this, really concerned, and she really wanted me to bring somebody with me the entire time. And so, you know what? What I find is that whenever I experience something really challenging like this, you kind of fluctuate through different motivations, and it can vary from, hey, if I finish this, this is going to be another experience I can use to inspire other people, which I've been able to do with my other walks. And so this is just one more thing that I can use. And I love it because for me, it's all about connection. And then, like I said, there's times where I relied on Vanessa's support and belief that this was the whole reason I was doing this. And I'm a little stubborn. I'm actually really stubborn. And so I tapped into that, right? I tapped into kind of that pride. Like, I cannot just quit. This is gonna suck, but I have to just keep going. Uh, and then, I use some other forms of motivation too, like this experience is going to help me as an entrepreneur, right? To stay disciplined and to be uncomfortable, because being an entrepreneur is really uncomfortable. And like we were talking about before, learning how to problem solve. And this is a muscle that I have to keep building. There's a quote I love that says, just because you've had past successes, that doesn't mean that what you're currently doing is going to be a success as well. So your past failures don't define your future success. Your past successes don't also define any future failures you might have. And so with that, I realized, okay, I need to keep building this muscle of resilience. And just, have you ever met the person from high school who just is so set on the glory days of winning that football championship, and they just brag on that their entire life? And you're like, dude, that was like 20 years ago. Like,
Right.
you know, and I,
Right.
I realized that was kind of what I was becoming with my walk across the country is I would brag about this. And yeah, that was amazing, but what the hell am I doing right now with my life? Right?
Mhm.
And so that was also part of my motivation for finishing is, I can say, yes, I've done that walk across the country, but I've also become part of a very small group of people. More people have climbed Mount Everest than they have walked across Costa Rica. And for me, it kind of builds my confidence, to be honest, a little bit, because, we need that kind of external motivation sometimes when we're doing something really hard.
Yeah.
So,
So, so what does it symbolize? Like you were talking about your walk across America. What does the walk symbolize for this walk across Costa Rica?
well, for one, it symbolizes my deep love and appreciation for Vanessa, my person. And personally, for me, this walk across Costa Rica symbolizes overcoming a lot of fears that I had. In fact, I'm planning on writing a book about this experience.
Ooh.
The working title I have is called Face the Mountain because there was a lot of fear going into this. Not just the walk itself, because I am terrified of snakes and spiders and all those.
Oh.
Those are all things that I come across, right? And just also being alone, which I know that sounds kind of silly, but like being alone in a foreign country and in a place where you might not have cell service, like it's a little overwhelming, right? I did have to overcome that, but also my fear of um, leaving my business for 2 weeks and hoping that my clients were going to be okay. Fear of even judgment again. I know there are some people who are like, okay, maybe why is he doing this again? What's he trying to prove? And there was something that happened in Hawaii when I did that walk in Hawaii in 2023, and I put myself out there, and it kind of turned into a flop because the week I did that walk was the same week that the fires in Maui were happening. And so I was doing this fundraiser, and so it didn't get the traction I was hoping for.
Mm.
And I felt like I put myself out there and I didn't get the same response I did walking across the country. So I was a little hurt and I got off social media for a while and I knew that I wanted to share this experience in Costa Rica again on social media. And one of my fears going into this is like when I post about this, is this going to resonate with people? Are people going to care?
Hmm.
And I've learned just not to care anymore. So anyway, for me, the to answer your question, the walk symbolizes building courage, and it took some courage to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so wild. Like that you're afraid of snakes and that's exactly what you like walked right into it. That's crazy. Okay, last question to wrap up. I love this. I love this one. If your walk were a love letter to Vanessa, what would the opening line be?
This was something that I thought about throughout the walk when I proposed to her. And this was the opening line, which was in 2020, I walked across America for peace. In 2020, in 2023, I walked across Oahu for clean water. And in 2025, I walked across Costa Rica for you. And so I think that's pretty special because those first two walks I did were kind of general. They were not for any one person. And to do this walk specifically for her, I think shows my dedication and determination to do something really hard, and so yeah, that's what came to my mind.
So tell us really quick how you guys met.
Yeah, so I'll give you the condensed version because it's kind of a long story. But back in 2024, right around the time that you came to Utah, I had this itch to leave Utah, go to Costa Rica. Fast forward to the end of that year, uh, I felt like I was starting to get ready to date again. And I didn't really want to get on dating apps, but I saw an ad for this international dating app called Bumpy. And I thought it was really sketchy at first, but something said just be open. And this thought came to my mind. If you're going to meet someone that you're compatible with, you're going to meet them doing something that you love. I thought, okay, I love to travel, so maybe I'll meet someone traveling. So I got on this app, and within the first couple of hours, I almost regretted it because I started meeting all these really crazy people asking for money and things like that. And so anyway, I was about to delete it, and then I met Vanessa, and we instantly hit it off, and we talked for like a month. So this was right before you and I went to LA for the Summit of Greatness. And I decided to go to Costa Rica because if this was going to work, that would be the only way to find out. And so went down to Costa Rica. We started to date, and it's been long distance during some months. She would come out to Utah, I'd come to Costa Rica, and that's how it happened.
Wow.
So
I feel like there's so many instances where you dare greatly. Like you just are so unabashed with your desires and it's like, man, I don't care. I'm just gonna go for it. Like this is a risk, but I'm willing to take it.
yeah, I think that's the way to live, honestly. And what's the point of letting your fears get over you, right? And so
Yeah.
I think the most interesting experiences in our life come from facing those fears. And that's where growth is. Growth is on the other side of taking action, you know? And when you do it, you realize, why was I overthinking this in the first place? Right? Um, yeah, the whole walk was beautiful. It was painful in some ways, but yeah, I think sometimes we tend to overthink things. And I'm really glad that I followed through on this goal that I had because it's going to be one of the most memorable experiences of my life.
Oh my goodness. Wow, James, what a story. That's so beautiful. So where can people connect with you? Where can they learn more about this book you're going to be writing soon?
Yeah, so the best place is to connect with me on Instagram. I'm the most active there. And my handle is James Allen Thompson, Alan. And I'm slowly starting to put out videos about my walk so you can kind of experience what I saw. And I'm also starting a YouTube channel, so I'll have more long form videos of my experience. And I'll be doing some updates on the book soon. But yeah, the book is going to be primarily to hopefully inspire people to do the El Camino de Costa Rica, um, and as a way to support the local entrepreneurs there, because this walk is a big part of how they're supported. So I'd like to see more people do this, and hopefully people read about my experience. You know, our mutual friend Paul, who you had on the podcast, his
It's
wife's
Fira
I'm Pariah. I'm Pariah.
or
Yeah.
that one.
So his wife, Camilla, her mother also has done parts of the Camino. And so if there are any
Oh,
ladies out there, I want to encourage you, if there are any ladies thinking about doing this, absolutely go do this solo. Don't be afraid. Don't let people say whatever. Just do it. I'd love to see more people do this walk.
yeah. Oh, that's so inspiring. James, thank you so much. This is such a great story.
Thank you.
All right, before you go, I need you to hear this. You don't need to keep white knuckling your way through life. You don't need to figure it out on your own. You deserve support. You deserve strategy. You deserve to feel like yourself again. And that's exactly why I'm offering you a complimentary free 30-minute coaching session. No strings, no pressure, just real conversation, real breakthroughs, and a real chance to feel lighter, clearer, and way more in control. If you've been listening and nodding your head thinking, yes, that's me, then this is the moment to stop thinking and start doing. Click the link in the show notes and schedule your free session right now. Right now, not later, not when you have time, right this moment, because you're worth showing up for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram at healing_with_Haley. I am here for you, but don't overthink it. What you're going to do in this free session is we're going to unpack any negative belief systems, build momentum with clear strategies, leave you feeling lighter, calmer, more confident, more grounded. These are the emotions you're going to feel after a session with me. Don't overthink it. The life you want starts with one decision. This could be the one thing that changes everything for you this year. Let's do this.